Leaders from more than 20 countries met in a coastal Egyptian resort town hours after Hamas released the 20 remaining living Israeli hostages. The summit was designed to support the ceasefire brokered by the United States to bring an end to the fighting between Israel and Hamas. It was also designed to help establish a long-term vision for governing and rebuilding Gaza. Notably, President Trump met yesterday with Mahmoud Abbas, the leader of the Palestinian Authority. You'll remember Abbas was denied entry to the U.S. last month to attend the UN General Assembly. Things have changed slightly. Trump also met with the president of the host country, Egyptian President El-Sisi. Trump said Egypt played a critical role in negotiating with the Hamas terrorist group and that Hamas's respect for Egypt's government was key in these negotiations. Leaders in attendance signed a document in support of the ceasefire, and according to that declaration, signatories pledged to, quote, pursue a comprehensive vision of peace, security, and shared prosperity in the region. President Trump then spoke about that agreement afterwards.
The momentous breakthrough that we're here to celebrate tonight is more than the end of the war in Gaza. It's with God's help, it'll be the new beginning for an entire beautiful Middle East. From this moment forward, we can build a region that's strong and stable and prosperous and united in rejecting the path of terror once and for all. We want to get rid of the terror and get on to other things. There are many other things in life that are so good.
Former Presidents Joe Biden and Bill Clinton acknowledged President Trump's efforts to securing this ceasefire deal, both posting statements on social media yesterday. Biden's statement read in part, "The road to this deal was not easy. My administration worked relentlessly to bring hostages home, get relief to Palestinian civilians, and end the war. I commend President Trump and his team for their work to get a renewed ceasefire deal over the finish line." Clinton, meanwhile, wrote, "President Trump and his administration, Qatar, and other regional actors deserve great credit for keeping everyone engaged until the agreement was reached." President Trump was asked about Clinton's comment last night, flying on Air Force One.
I've always got along with him. He used to be a friend of mine. Came to my wedding, you know. So did she. A lot of people don't know that. But now I've always liked him. I thought it was very nice, actually. And what is he doing? He's telling the truth. Because nobody else has been able to do it. I'm talking about the Middle East.
Also during that gaggle on Air Force One, the president was asked about what comes next for Gaza.
You're talking about a different plan. I'm talking about something very much different. We're talking about rebuilding Gaza. I'm not talking about single state or double state or two state. We're talking about the rebuilding of Gaza.
What's the road ahead for governing Gaza?
Well, we'll have to see. I mean, a lot of people like the one-state solution. Some people like the two-state solution. So we'll have to see. I haven't commented on that.
How do you see bridging that gap? Because you have the Arab countries.
At some point, I'll decide what I think is right, but I'd be in coordination with other states and other countries.
And are you satisfied? I mean, some people might say it feels premature declaring peace for the whole Middle East. 3,000 years of peace.
Premature? Why? You want more people to be killed? What do you want? Another 300,000-400,000 people to be killed? Is that what you're looking for?
But in terms of the risks in Gaza, we're already seeing
risk. So you mean let them fight on for another couple of years and let some more buildings fall down on top of people and keep it going? No, we did it the right way. We did it. I think our timing was perfect, actually.
Joining us now, MSNBC White House correspondent Akayla Gardner. So, Akayla, I think a lot of the questions that the reporter was asking there are the right ones, because there is, as much as there's praise for this deal and a pause to the fighting, there's concern that it might not hold because we've seen ceasefires before. So what is the White House saying potentially behind the scenes about how they're grappling with some of these larger questions that still remain, especially as it pertains to Gaza?
Well, just on the president's answer there, it's been remarkable that he's been so disciplined when he's been asked about this question of the two-state solution. He's not really said his position, but his own plan, the second to last point, talks about Palestinian statehood. And I talked to a lot of experts who say Hamas would not agree to this deal if there was not a believable path that they saw to that. Now, how we get there, there's still a lot of questions, but senior administration officials behind the scenes privately do acknowledge that we're in a very delicate time, and they know that this is not going to be a simple path forward, despite the fact that Trump is saying the war is is over. He says the ceasefire is going to hold. He believes that there's a tiredness and fatigue with fighting in the region. So he is certainly saying that and expressing this confidence very publicly. But behind the scenes, the White House acknowledges that there's a lot of steps that need to happen going forward. Something that I really took away from that meeting yesterday is it felt very symbolic. There wasn't as much time as I was expecting for some of those private conversations. There was a lot of photo ops, a lot of handshaking, not really the time for those conversations. But it seems that Steve Witkoff, of course, the Middle East special envoy, and Jared Kushner are committed to continuing to have those conversations. They did tell reporters that yesterday that they're going to be in this for the long run. And I think they are really going to be the people that the president is trusting to see this through to the finish line.
Well, and the president lavishing extensive praise on them when he was speaking to the Israeli parliament yesterday. That was minutes upon minutes of his remarks. What do you make of the fact, though, and how has the White House thought about Netanyahu saying he wouldn't attend that conference in Egypt after being invited by the Egyptian president alongside the president of the United States? Doesn't that leave one of the key players who needs to be at the table to agree to whatever comes next in phase 2, phase 3, and whatever comes more than that? Don't they need to be there to move forward?
Well, Netanyahu said that he declined this invitation because of the Jewish holiday. That's
right.
what they're saying. And there could be potentially real political ramifications if he did travel during that time. But there's a huge question over what his influence looks like going forward. The U.S. says they're going to continue to have this open line of communication with Israel, particularly because Netanyahu said shortly after this ceasefire was in place, he says their campaign is not over. He says there's real threats to their security. They have a real concern about what leadership in Palestine looks like without Hamas influence. And that is a major question that I have. This deal was ultimately brokered with Hamas. What point does that transition to this new governance structure that they seemingly want to get to? But right now they only have this temporary board of peace, this temporary Palestinian committee, I should say. And so when does that change over? That is super unclear to me, and I'm really having questions about that going forward.
Yeah, Netanyahu has been clear he wants the eradication of Hamas for fear that they will conduct another terror attack, which is what started off this entire war 2 years ago. And then, of course, Hamas have taken issue with the tenet in the deal that says they should not be involved in future governing structures in the state. We're going to dig into this more a little bit later in the hour with Mark Polymeropoulos, our analyst who knows this region so well. But when you look back here at home, we talked a little bit about how other presidents are responding to the news of this deal. I thought it was striking to see so many Democratic lawmakers say this is a good thing to celebrate the return of the living hostages. But I think it was notable they're praising the deal without praising the president.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a reminder that we have a very toxic political environment. Back home, we still have a government shutdown.
Yeah.
And you read that statement from former President Biden, which I thought he had inserted that spicy line. And many of his officials from his administration have been saying similarly that a lot of the principles that the president used are some that they had in their own framework for peace in Gaza. And so he's sort of reminding everyone, you know, that conversations had started under his administration as well. But President Trump was asked about that yesterday as well, and he does not give any credit to the former administration. And certainly world leaders are saying only President Trump could have got this deal done.
I do think that leaders have acknowledged the role that Trump plays, especially when it comes to pressuring Netanyahu to either stay at the table or accept terms that are not 100% of what he would have wanted. We heard some of that reporting even leading up to this specific deal. But you're right, I think, to point out, because even as I was reading it both the first time and then saying it anew this morning, when Biden talks about congratulating the Trump team to get, in his words, a renewed ceasefire deal on the line, it strikes me that many in the administration that you and I both covered before this second Trump administration are seeing shades of what they had previously negotiated. And frankly, the first ceasefire that many had hoped for, but ultimately fell apart, right?
Absolutely. A lot of the principles, and I've talked to many experts about this, again, did come from that administration. And these are some conversations that have happened for a long time. But it's interesting, people in Israel that I've talked to have said the politics of this moment do matter. Netanyahu does have a far-right government, and they do say that it was probably easier for them to strike a deal with a Republican president. And I think we're starting to see some of those comments from President Trump yesterday, heaping praise on Netanyahu. He is really going to be using that to really launch his potential re-election campaign in Israel.
Yeah, and we know that Netanyahu's politics, and again, we're going to talk about this a little later in the show, have always been so wrapped up in what's happening in relation to the policy and the diplomacy around ending this war. MSNBC's Akayla Gardner, thank you as always for coming on.